I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible. But there's something about being in a relationship that makes you lose your mind in ways nobody talks about. Everyone's been calling me manipulative, toxic, a narcissist, all the labels you can imagine. And maybe they're right. But the truth is I ruined the best relationship I ever had because I needed to know something that I could have just trusted. And the worst part, the absolute worst part that I've never told anyone. I knew exactly what I was doing when I did it, and I did it anyway. This isn't just about a stupid test or jealousy. It's about this terror I've carried my whole life that I'm not enough, that anyone who loves me is just temporarily blinded and will eventually see through me. I know how that sounds. I know everyone has insecurities. But mine made me destroy something real, and if I don't tell this story exactly how it happened, you'll never understand why I made the choices I made. You still might not forgive me, but you'll at least see that it wasn't as simple as everyone thinks. I'm going to tell you everything, including what I said to his best friend that night and what I did after Marcus walked out. The part that makes me look worst, I'm saving that for later because you need to understand how we got there first. You need to see how perfect we were, how much he loved me, so you can understand just how badly I threw it all away. Marcus and I met at a coffee shop near campus. I know, painfully cliché, but he wasn't like the guys I usually dated. He was stable. Kind. He didn't play games, didn't leave me on read for hours to seem mysterious, didn't flirt with other girls to make me jealous. He was just present, fully there. When we talked, he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. When I told him about my childhood, about my dad leaving, about always feeling like I was auditioning for love, he didn't try to fix me, he just listened. We've been together for almost 2 years when things started feeling different, not bad different, just comfortable, and that scared me more than I want to admit. The butterflies faded. The constant texting slowed down. We fell into routines. Friday nights were movie nights. Sundays we'd meal prep together. He'd kiss my forehead every morning before work. It was domestic and sweet and everything I thought I wanted. But then my brain started doing what it always does. It started looking for cracks, for evidence that this couldn't last, that he was settling, that the spark was dying. My therapist once told me I have a pattern of self-sabotage, that when things get good, I unconsciously destroy them because chaos feels more familiar than peace. I stopped seeing her after that session because she was getting too close to things I wasn't ready to face. I started noticing small things. Marcus would laugh at other women's jokes at parties. He'd mention a coworker named Sarah a lot. He'd check his phone and smile at something before putting it away. None of these things meant anything on their own, but I collected them like evidence, building a case in my head that he was losing interest. My best friend Rachel told me I was being paranoid. He's literally planning a future with you, she said. He talks about you moving in together, he brought you to his sister's wedding. Guys don't do that unless they're serious. But I couldn't shake it. The fear that he was with me out of habit, not passion. That if someone better came along, someone who didn't have my baggage, he'd realize what he was missing. That's when I had the thought, just a small thought at first, barely there. What if I tested him? What if I created a situation where I could see how he really felt, where his true feelings would show? I know how messed up that sounds now. I knew it was messed up then. But the thought took root and grew, and suddenly I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started researching online, reading Reddit threads about relationship tests, loyalty tests, all these stories of people who needed to know for sure. Some people defended it. If he loves you, he'll pass, they'd say. Better to know now than waste more time. The worst part was that I already knew Marcus loved me. Deep down I knew, but knowing wasn't enough. I needed proof. I needed him to prove it in a way that would quiet the voice in my head that kept saying I wasn't enough. I want to be clear about something before I go further. I'm not asking for sympathy. I know what I did was wrong. But I need you to understand the logic, however twisted, that got me there. When you grow up believing love is conditional, that it can be withdrawn at any moment, you start looking for the withdrawal before it happens. You start testing it, poking at it, trying to make it break so you can say, see, I knew it wouldn't last. Marcus's best friend was Jake. They'd known each other since high school, played basketball together every week, talked almost daily. Jake was attractive in an obvious way, tall, athletic, charismatic. He was also single after a bad breakup, which somehow made everything easier in my mind. Less complicated. The plan formed slowly. I'd flirt with Jake at Marcus's birthday party. Nothing too crazy, just enough to see how Marcus reacted. If he got jealous, it meant he still cared. If he fought for me, it would prove his feelings were real. That's what I told myself anyway. Just when I thought I had convinced myself it was a reasonable idea, my sister called. She was going through a divorce, and during one of our late-night talks, she said something that stuck with me. The moment you start testing your partner is the moment you've already given up on trust. And without trust, you don't have anything real. I should have listened. I should have called Rachel, called my therapist, called anyone who could talk me down. Instead, I got defensive, even just in my own head. My sister didn't understand. She'd married her high school sweetheart. She didn't know what it was like to have abandonment carved into your bones, to live in constant fear of the other shoe dropping. The party was at our apartment. Well, Marcus's apartment, but I stayed there most nights. I'd spend the whole day decorating, making his favorite foods, being the perfect girlfriend. See, part of me kept thinking, I'm trying so hard. Doesn't that count for something? Jake arrived early to help set up. Marcus was out picking up the cake. It was the perfect opportunity, my brain whispered. Just test the waters, see how Jake responds. You look good, I said to Jake more directly than I'd normally speak to him. Have you been working out more? He looked surprised but smiled. Yeah, actually, trying to get back into it after the breakup. It shows, I said, and I touched his arm briefly. My heart was hammering, not from attraction but from the wrongness of it, the boundary I was crossing. But I pushed the feeling down. Jake's expression shifted slightly, uncertain. He glanced toward the door like he was checking if Marcus was back yet. Thanks, he said, stepping back a little. Marcus is lucky to have you planning all this for him. The mention of Marcus should have stopped me, should have snapped me out of it. Instead, it made me push harder, because if I stopped now, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't have my answer. As the party filled up with people, I noticed Jake keeping his distance from me. He stayed on the opposite side of rooms, kept conversations brief. A normal person would have taken the hint, would have felt relieved even that he wasn't engaging, but I felt rejected. And that rejection, even from someone I didn't want, stung in a way that made me reckless. I started drinking more than I usually did. Liquid courage, I told myself. By the time we were all gathered around for cake, I was tipsy enough that my inhibitions were down but sober enough to know exactly what I was doing. Everyone was laughing, taking photos, singing happy birthday. Marcus was grinning, his arm around my waist, pulling me close. Best birthday ever, he whispered in my ear. Thank you for this. I should have stopped right there. Seeing him so happy, so grateful, so completely in love with me should have been proof enough. Should have filled whatever empty well I was trying to fill with validation. Instead, all I could think was, but how do I know it's real? After cake, people dispersed into smaller groups. Marcus was showing some friends his new gaming setup in the bedroom. Jake was in the kitchen alone getting another drink. I saw my opportunity. I walked up beside him, closer than necessary. Having fun? I asked. Yeah, it's a good party, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. I've been meaning to talk to you, I said, my voice lower, more intimate. I feel like we don't really know each other that well, considering how important you are to Marcus. I mean, we hang out in groups pretty regularly, Jake said. He was clearly uncomfortable, shifting his weight, looking around. I placed my hand on his chest, just for a second. I just think you're really interesting, I said, and I wish we could spend more time together, just us. Jake stepped back immediately, his face a mix of shock and anger. What are you doing? He asked, his voice harsh. Are you serious right now? I'm just saying, you're Marcus's girlfriend, he's my best friend, what the hell is wrong with you? The confrontation wasn't quiet. A few people in the living room turned to look. I felt my face burn with shame and alcohol and the sudden realization that this wasn't going to play out like I'd imagined. Jake wasn't going to flirt back so Marcus could see and get jealous. He was calling me out. I was just being friendly, I said, my voice rising defensively. You're completely overreacting. Friendly? Jake's laugh was bitter. You just came on to me at your boyfriend's birthday party, in his apartment. What kind of person does that? That's when I saw Marcus in the doorway of the kitchen. I don't know how long he'd been standing there, but the look on his face told me he'd heard enough. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. The party sounds faded. All I could focus on was the way his expression crumbled, how the light in his eyes just went out. Marcus, I started, moving toward him. He held up a hand, stopping me. He looked at Jake first. Is this true? His voice was calm, which somehow made it worse than if he'd been yelling. Jake's face was full of pain. Man, I'm sorry I didn't. She just... Is it true? Marcus repeated. Jake nodded slowly. She came on to me. Just now, I shut it down immediately. Marcus finally looked at me. Why? It was such a simple question, but I had no answer that would make sense. The truth that I was testing him, that I needed to manufacture a situation to prove his love, sounded insane even in my own head. So I did what I always do when cornered. I deflected. It wasn't like that, I said. Jake's misunderstanding. I was just drunk and being too friendly maybe, but I wasn't. Don't, Marcus said quietly. Don't lie to me right now. Everyone at the party had noticed something was wrong. Conversations had stopped. Someone turned down the music. We had an audience for the destruction of our relationship. Can we talk about this in private? I pleaded. There's nothing to talk about, Marcus said, his voice cracked slightly. I need you to leave. It's your birthday, let me explain. Leave, he repeated louder this time. Get your stuff and go. I wanted to fight it. Wanted to break down, cry, beg forgiveness. But the finality in his voice, the way he wouldn't even look at me anymore, told me there was no coming back from this. Not tonight, maybe not ever. I thought I'd have time to fix it. I grabbed my purse, my phone, and left, assuming we'd talk tomorrow when everyone was sober and calm. I'd explain about my insecurities, my fear of abandonment, my stupid plan. He'd be hurt, but he loved me. We'd work through it. That's what I told myself as I cried in the Uber home, as I lay in my own bed alone for the first time in months, as I sent him text after text that went unanswered. I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. I made a terrible mistake. I love you. Please don't do this. Read receipts on, no response. By morning I had 17 unread texts. Hope surged until I opened them. They weren't from Marcus. They were from friends who'd been at the party, from people who'd already heard what happened, from my sister who'd got a concerned call from Rachel. The story was spreading, and in each retelling I became more and more of a villain. Some versions had me making out with Jake. Others had me sleeping with him before. The truth was bad enough, but the rumors made it so much worse. I called Marcus, straight to voicemail. I called again, and again. On the fourth call he answered. Stop calling me, he said. Marcus, please, I need to explain. It wasn't what it looked like. I wasn't actually trying to. What was it then? He asked. Explain it to me, because from where I was standing I saw my girlfriend hitting on my best friend at my birthday party. I was testing you, I blurted out, the truth finally, but even as I said it I knew how it sounded. Silence. Then you were testing me? I needed to know if you still cared, if you'd fight for me. Things have been so comfortable between us and I was scared you were losing interest and I just needed to know. So you decided to flirt with my best friend, to hurt me on purpose to see if I cared. When you say it like that, how else should I say it? His voice was rising now, the calm gone, replaced with raw anger. You played a game with my feelings, humiliated me in front of everyone I care about, and tried to ruin my friendship with Jake. And for what? To feed your own insecurity. I know it was wrong, I sobbed. I know, I'm so sorry, I'll do anything, I'll go to therapy, I'll work on my issues, just please don't give up on us. You don't get it, Marcus said. This isn't about the flirting, I mean that's bad enough. But you manipulated me, you played with my emotions like it was a game. How am I supposed to trust anything about our relationship was real? How do I know you haven't been testing me this whole time? Everything was real, I love you. No, he said firmly. You don't do this to people you love, you just don't. He hung up. When I tried calling back, my number was blocked. I spent the next week in a fog. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I called in sick to work. My apartment felt like a tomb. I kept replaying the night over and over, thinking of what I should have done differently. If I'd just been honest about my fears, if I just trusted him, if I just talked to my therapist instead of stopping sessions. Rachel came over on day 3. She brought food and wine and sat with me while I cried. I told you this would happen, she said, not unkindly. Not this exactly, but I told you that you were self-sabotaging. I know. So why did you do it? Because I'm broken, I said, because I'd rather destroy something good than wait for it to destroy me. That's not an excuse. I know that too. She stayed quiet for a while, then asked, do you think you can get him back? The question I'd been avoiding. I don't know, would I even deserve to? Probably not, Rachel said honestly, but that's not what I asked. I wanted to believe I could fix it, that if I just explained better, groveled harder, proved I'd changed, Marcus would take me back. But deep down I knew the truth. I'd broken something that couldn't be repaired. Trust is like glass. Once it shatters, you can glue the pieces back together, but it'll never be the same. A week after the party, I saw on social media that Marcus had unfriended me everywhere, blocked me on Instagram. Our photos together disappeared from his Facebook. He was erasing me, systematically removing any evidence that we'd existed. I thought about showing up at his apartment, forcing him to see me, to hear me out, but even in my desperation I knew that would make things worse. So I did nothing, which felt like dying slowly. Then Jake reached out. A simple text, we need to talk. We met at a neutral coffee shop. He looked tired, stressed. You ruined everything, he said, not bothering with pleasantries. Marcus won't talk to me, he thinks I did something to encourage you. Fresh guilt washed over me. I'll tell him you didn't, I'll explain. He won't listen, he blocked you, remember? Jake's jaw clenched. I've known him for 15 years. You've destroyed our friendship because you needed attention or validation or whatever the hell you were looking for. It wasn't about attention, I said weakly. Then what was it about? Make it make sense to me. I tried to explain. The fear, the insecurity, the twisted logic that made testing him seem reasonable. Jake listened, his expression unchanging. When I finished, he said, you know what the really messed up part is? Marcus was going to propose. He'd been planning it for months. He bought a ring. He was going to do it at the party, but then he chickened out, decided to wait for a more private moment. Jake leaned back, watching my face crumble. He was all in with you, completely, and you threw it away because you couldn't just trust that. The words hit me like a physical blow. A ring, a proposal, a future, all of it gone because I needed to test something that was already proven. I didn't know, I whispered. Would it have mattered if you did? That question haunted me. Would it have stopped me? Or would I have found another way to sabotage it, another test to run, another way to prove my unworthiness? I don't know, I admitted. Jake stood up. Stay away from both of us, you've done enough damage. After he left, I sat in that coffee shop for hours, staring at nothing, feeling everything. The barista eventually asked if I was okay. I nodded and left, but I wasn't okay. I wouldn't be okay for a long time. People kept asking me what happened. Mutual friends, coworkers who'd met Marcus, my family, I gave vague answers. We grew apart. It just didn't work out. Sometimes relationships run their course. It was easier than admitting the truth. I destroyed the best thing in my life on purpose. My mom called after hearing we'd broken up. What did you do? She asked immediately. Why do you assume I did something? Because I know you, she said. You're like me, we don't know how to let good things stay good. We pick at them until they fall apart. Her words felt like an indictment of my entire existence. So I'm just genetically programmed to ruin my life? Not programmed, but you have to fight against your instincts, get help, actually work on yourself instead of just talking about it. After that conversation, I finally called my therapist, started sessions again, started actually doing the work instead of just showing up and complaining. It was hard excavating all the reasons I did what I did, facing the patterns I'd been running from. 1 month after the party, I saw Marcus at the grocery store. My heart stopped. He was with a woman. They weren't touching, weren't obviously together, but there was an ease between them that spoke of familiarity. I ducked into another aisle before he could see me, then hated myself for being a coward. I watched from behind a display of cereal boxes as they shopped together, laughed at something on his phone, moved through the store with the kind of comfortable synchronicity that Marcus and I used to have. The woman was pretty, put together, probably emotionally stable and not constantly testing people's love. They left before I worked up the courage to approach. I stood there holding a box of cereal I didn't even want, crying in the middle of the grocery store while a concerned employee asked if I needed help. That night I broke, really broke. Not the dramatic crying of the first few weeks, but a deep, soul-crushing understanding of what I'd lost. I'd had someone who loved me unconditionally, who'd planned a future with me, who'd been all in. And I'd thrown it away for a test he didn't know he was taking and couldn't possibly pass. The worst part, the part I haven't told anyone until now, is that when I flirted with Jake, part of me hoped Marcus wouldn't notice. Part of me hoped I could play it off, get away with it, satisfy my need for validation without consequences. It wasn't just about testing his love. It was about seeing if I could manipulate the situation to get what I wanted without losing what I had. That's the real confession. I wasn't just insecure, I was manipulative. I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. I wanted Marcus to be so in love with me that he'd fight for me, but I also wanted the freedom to test boundaries, to get attention from other men, to feel desirable and in control. When Jake rejected me and Marcus walked out, it wasn't just a test gone wrong. It was consequences for behavior I thought I was too smart to get caught doing. The shame of that realization is something I carry every day. My therapist helped me understand that my fear of abandonment had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was so afraid of being left that I did things to make it happen, maintaining control over the narrative. Better to be the villain who caused the breakup than the victim who got left, right? At least that way I could tell myself it was my choice, my power, my decision. Except it wasn't a decision. It was a compulsion. A pattern so ingrained I didn't even see it until it was too late. 3 months post-breakup, I saw Marcus's relationship status on Facebook change before I remembered I'd been blocked on his accounts but not Rachel's, which sometimes showed mutual friend updates. He was in a relationship. With the woman from the grocery store probably, maybe someone new, it didn't matter. He'd moved on. I wanted to be happy for him, wanted to be the bigger person who could say I'm glad he found someone who deserves him. But mostly I just felt hollow. Like I'd lost my chance at happiness and couldn't even blame anyone but myself. Rachel asked me once if I'd learned anything from it all. Have you actually changed, or are you just sad you got caught? The question was cruel but fair. Both, I admitted. I'm sad I lost him, but I'm also horrified by who I was, who I still am sometimes when the fear gets loud. That's a start, I guess, she said. Work on yourself is such a cliche. Everyone says it after breakups. Hit the gym, go to therapy, learn to love yourself. As if it's that simple. As if you can just decide to be better and suddenly your trauma heals, your patterns break, your brain stops betraying you. But I tried, I really tried. I stayed in therapy even when it was uncomfortable. I started journaling, tracking my thoughts when I felt the urge to test people, to create drama, to sabotage good things. I dated casually but stopped whenever I felt the old patterns emerging. Better to be alone than to hurt someone else. 6 months after Marcus walked out, I wrote him a letter, not to send, just to process. I apologized for everything, explained what I'd learned about myself, took full responsibility without expecting forgiveness. At the end, I wrote, you deserved better than what I gave you. I hope you find it. I hope you've already found it. I burned the letter in my kitchen sink, watching the paper curl and blacken, taking my last words to him with it. Here's what nobody tells you about being the villain in your own story: the guilt doesn't fade. People expect some kind of redemption arc where I learned my lesson and became a better person and found new love. But real life isn't that clean. Some mistakes you don't recover from. Some relationships you can't fix. Some versions of yourself you have to live with, even as you try to become someone different. I saw Marcus one more time, about 8 months after the party. We ran into each other at a mutual friend's wedding. He was there with his new girlfriend, official and established. I was alone. We made eye contact across the reception hall. For a moment I thought he might come over, thought we might finally have a real conversation where I could apologize properly. Instead, he gave me a small nod of acknowledgement and turned away. That nod contained everything. I see you. I remember. I've moved on. It hurt more than anger would have. Anger would have meant he still cared, still felt something. The polite distance meant I'd become a closed chapter, a cautionary tale he probably told his new girlfriend as a crazy ex story. And the thing is, he wouldn't be wrong. I danced alone at that wedding, drank too much champagne and left early. Cried in another Uber just like the night of the party. Some things hadn't changed, but some things had. I was more aware now of my patterns, even if I couldn't always stop them. I was more honest with myself about my capacity for self-destruction. I stopped pretending my trauma was an excuse and started treating it like something I needed to manage actively every day. I went on a few dates here and there, nothing serious. The moment someone seemed too interested, too available, too good, I felt the old fears creep in. The urge to test, to push, to see if their affection was real. But now I recognized it. Sometimes I even told my dates I have a pattern of self-sabotaging good things. I'm working on it, but I want you to know. Most guys ran at that confession. Fair enough. Who wants to sign up for someone's healing journey? One guy, though, David, stayed. We've all got stuff, he said. At least you're self-aware about yours. We dated for 3 months before I sabotaged it. Not with flirting this time, but by picking fights over nothing, by reading into every small slight, by creating problems that didn't exist. David lasted longer than he should have before finally saying, I care about you, but I can't fight your demons for you. You have to want to do that yourself. He was right. I knew he was right, but knowing doesn't always translate to doing. I'm writing this now, a year and a half after Marcus walked out on me forever, because I need to own what I did. Really own it, not just in therapy sessions or private journals, but out loud where people can judge me for it. I tested the man I loved by flirting with his best friend because I was broken and scared and selfish. He saw through my manipulation, called me on it, and left. He was right to leave. I don't know if Marcus ever thinks about me. I don't know if he told his new girlfriend the full story or a sanitized version. I don't know if he kept the ring or returned it. I don't know if he forgave me in his heart, even though we'll never speak again. What I do know is that I lost something irreplaceable because I couldn't trust that I deserved it. And that's something I have to live with every day. The knowledge that I had everything I wanted and set it on fire just to see if it would burn. People online love to debate stories like mine. Half the comments will call me a narcissist, a sociopath, someone who deserves to be alone. The other half will make excuses, blame childhood trauma, say everyone makes mistakes. Both sides miss the point. I'm not a monster, but I did a monstrous thing. I'm not irredeemable, but I haven't fully redeemed myself either. I'm just a person who let fear make decisions that love should have made, and now I live with the consequences. If there's a lesson in all this, it's not the obvious one about trust or honesty. It's this: your trauma is real, your fear is valid, your wounds are genuine. But none of that gives you the right to wound someone else. None of that justifies manipulation or games or tests. At some point, you have to choose to break the pattern or accept that you'll keep breaking the people who try to love you. I'm still choosing every day. Some days I succeed, some days I fail, but at least now I know what I'm fighting against. Marcus is engaged now. I saw it on Facebook through Rachel's account. His new girlfriend, fiancée now, looks radiant in the photo. He looks happy in a way I don't remember him looking with me, even in our best moments. Maybe I'm projecting. Maybe I'm seeing what I need to see to justify my guilt. Or maybe he really is happier, freer, lighter without me and my constant tests and manufactured crises. I hope he is. I genuinely hope he is. He deserves everything good in life, and I'm glad he found it with someone who doesn't need to break things to believe they're real. As for me, I'm still here, still in therapy. Still working on trusting good things. Still learning that love isn't something you test. It's something you tend like a garden with patience and care and faith that it will grow if you don't rip it out by the roots to check on it. I tested him by flirting with his friend. He saw and walked out on me forever. That's the story. That's what I did. And I'm the one who has to live with it, who has to build a new version of myself from the rubble of who I was that night. Some days I think I'm getting better. Other days I'm not so sure. But I keep trying because the alternative is becoming the kind of person who blames everyone else for the wreckage she caused. I did this. Me, not my dad who left, not my childhood wounds, not my mental health struggles. Those things shaped me, influenced me, but in the end I made the choice. I chose the test over trust. I chose manipulation over vulnerability. I chose to light the match. And now I choose to tell the truth about it, even knowing how it makes me look. Even knowing most people won't understand or forgive. Even knowing Marcus will never read this and wouldn't care if he did. I'm telling it because someone out there might be where I was, afraid, insecure, considering testing their partner just to feel secure. And maybe, just maybe, my story will be the cautionary tale that stops them. That helps them see that the temporary relief of testing isn't worth the permanent loss of something real. Or maybe I'm telling it just to finally confess somewhere other than my own head. To say out loud I was the villain, I ruined it. And I'm sorry, even though sorry will never be enough. That's the truth. The whole ugly truth, and now you know.